It might not come to surprise you to know that I cannot, for the life of me, decide on which project I want to make first. Should I make another fursuit head, pick out a character to cosplay, plan out an over-the-top sewing project, mash them all into one? Wait, that's a good idea. Write that one down. Luckily, one of my newest favorite YouTube channels, The Wizard's Keep, has blessed me with both a randomizer and a time challenge. Project Ren-Way. The concept is simple. The wizard, or yourself, rolls 3 dice, picks a theme, class, and colors. For the official wizard roll TM, Fate has decided the theme to be whimsical, the class to be peasant, and the colors to be night sky. If you're new to my channel, I make cloaks for a living, and I have long been wanting to upgrade my base outfit to match one, or several, of my cloaks. Well, Fate was extra good to me on this project, as I have a cloak that matches perfectly with this event. With ideas churning in my mind, and the crafting itch in my palms, it was time to design. For the design, I had 3 major points I wanted to hit, along with the randomizer rolls. First, this outfit must be comfortable to wear. Sounds kind of intuitive to make an outfit comfortable, but as someone who comes from cosplay, some of those designs are overstimulation city. So, I decided to keep it simple with natural fibers and loose-fitting chemise and overdress. Second, this outfit must be machine washable. No delicate beadwork or embroidery, sadly, because this thing needs to go into the washing machine. Third, this outfit must use thrifted or scrap pieces. No more adding to my hoard, please. I'm running out of space. With these 3 pillars and themes in mind, I decided to go with a black chemise with painted golden details, a dark blue overdress with patchwork godettes in the bottom for a dramatic flair, and an apron in the front with a patchwork pocket to hold anything I may need. I will also be adding some painted gold details to the overdress for a quick, easy, and durable way to add more pizzazz. This is a very simple rectangle chemise with shortened sleeves and gores on the side to add fullness. Oh no, that's gore. That's gore of my chemise. Sadly, I couldn't find any black cotton sheets at the thrift store, so I decided to dye my own. I often say, who really needs to measure and read directions when it comes to dyeing? Just shove it in the pot and wait. So easy and on the first try. And these are not black. After dyeing my chemise one more time, I had this pretty dark purple color, which you may note is not black as I was going for, but let me just... There we go. The construction of the chemise seems pretty straightforward if you plan out how you're going to finish your seams before sewing it all together. I should have been doing French seams when attaching all of the new parts, like the sleeves, gores, and gussets, but I thought I could after it was already assembled. Well, turns out, chemises are kind of a nightmare to finish once it turns into a 3D object. I was also not too pleased with how stiff the cotton was when gathered. Overall, I think I may be remaking the chemise in the future with a proper black fabric and finishings, but this was a great learning experience. The overdress will be made up of 3 parts: the bodice, the skirt, and the godets. I started first with cutting out my pattern pieces in these blue cotton bed sheets and some leftover cotton canvas. Ideally, you want to dye your fabric and then cut, but my dye pot is very small. For the bodice, I used 2 layers of dyed fabric, cotton bed sheets and cotton canvas for structure. Sewing the bodice together was super easy. I just needed to adjust the cotton layer to be a little bit smaller as the canvas had shrunk during the drying process. Also, ironing out these seams was so satisfying, and it's one of my many reasons why I love working with natural fibers. Crisp. With our 2 layers attached at the top, I made the boning channels by stitching the 2 layers together and slid in this lightweight steel boning from Wawak. I added 2 boning channels to either side of the front for more support for the grommets. To hide those ugly raw edges, I used bias tape all around the bodice. It was my first time using bias tape properly, and also my first time making a bone bodice, so there are some mistakes here and there. But you can only see them if you get close, and I don't want people that close to me. I also ran out of this dark blue bias tape, but luckily, since I am a cosplayer, I had a different blue bias tape I could use on the top and bottom. After making my craft room sound like a construction zone, my grommets were attached and it was time to move to the skirt. Before tackling the skirt, I first needed to make 4 godets to be inserted along the circle. A godet is a triangle-shaped piece of fabric added to a skirt or a dress to add more volume or even decoration. It would have been better for me to make a 3/4 circle skirt and cut slits in for the godet triangles, but hindsight is 20/20 and I might as well be blind. All is not wasted, however. I used the triangles I cut out from the circle skirt and combined them together to make a pattern piece for my patchwork sizing. And you're probably wondering why I didn't decide to do the entire skirt in a patchwork. It's because, well, one, that's a ton of work to cut all these into little tiny squares and attach them together. And two, even if I have this giant mound of scrap right here and that entire Costco bin here full of scrap, I still want to use it for other projects, like maybe a patchwork cloak sometime in the future. I used 2 different rectangle sizes for the patches as well to add more variety. I played around with the placement of the patches until I ended up with this pattern of large rectangles with sections of smaller rectangles scattered in between. That makes sense, right? I found that looked a little bit disjointed and not quite as patterny as patchwork can often be. So I decided to do just sort of a checkerboard with the larger ones, but to help break it up and also to use some of those small pieces that I had cut up is to take every third of these black squares and replace them with a 4-piece small patchwork right there. So just to add a little bit more visual interest, but to make it a little bit easier for me to cut, and I can use up those squares too, so yay. The sewing itself wasn't hard, but God, it took so long! Each godet took around 75 minutes to sew, start to finish. I can't complain much though, I think they turned out super duper cute. With the godet triangles taken out at the start, all I needed to do was dye the skirt and reattach the godets. To do this, I did a rolled hem on each of the triangles in the skirt and attached the godets right sides together. This made sure that there was no raw edges at the godets. I then finished all of the raw edges in the skirt and gathered the top circle to fit along the bottom of the bodice. I think I'm addicted to gathering fabric now. With the skirt and the bodice right sides together, I carefully stitched the 2 pieces together, avoiding any bones in the process. The apron design went through a lot of changes before even starting. I felt like the design could have used a bit more, but wasn't sure what to do during the design phase. Then fate struck again! I found these shiny and sheer curtains at the thrift store and knew that this had to be the apron fabric. Sadly, it was not going to be strong enough to be an apron just by itself, so I picked up a pillowcase to act as its base. I wasn't sure which direction I wanted the tinsel to go in until I rotated the fabric 45 degrees. Doesn't it just look like a sky full of shooting stars? Truly, the crafting gods were looking down on me for this apron. I attached the shiny fabric to the pillowcase, which was easier said than done. It's always the beautiful fabrics that are the biggest pains to work with. For the front pocket, I decided to do an applique of the celestial fabric to highlight the whimsical details in the design. Finally, I gathered the top and added a long belt loop on the inside. So I'm all done with my photo shoot, and all I have to say is I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I think that the bottom skirt is so full and fluffy and is very fun to twirl in. Also, my bodice here isn't too tight, it's actually a little bit loose on me. I will say I wish I had spent a little bit more time on the chemise. It is one of the weakest parts of this costume, but I think it still managed to pull the look together. I also really like how the apron details came out. I wish I had taken a little bit more time to sew it better because it's a little bubbly. But I think it turned out really cute. This pocket is very functional. I've already stored like my keys and my phone in there, so this is a costume I definitely want to keep on wearing for Ren fairs or any other markets that I'm going to, just because, again, I can breathe in it, I can sit in it, I can drive in it, so that is always a plus. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the time to decorate and paint the bodice and dress the way I wanted to, so that is something that I'm gonna have to revisit later on, but luckily, look how big of a canvas I have back here to work with. So that'll be super fun, so if you want to see that video, make sure you comment below. If you made it to this point, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, make sure you hit like, comment, and subscribe. Also, YouTube is doing this thing called hyping, where you basically just say the video is really good and it pushes it out onto a different leaderboard. So if you have any hype points, and you can leave them down below. Thank y'all, and I'll see y'all next time! Thank you again to the Wizard's Keep for making this fun challenge. I implore you to check out their work and see the other participants as well. I'm sure I'll be using this list again in the future. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to see more chaos crafting. Until next time!